When the weather gets beautiful, it's so nice to take students outside to enjoy some sunshine. Here are 10 activities you can do with your students outside. Hey, it's Ashley, aka Senior in Spanish, where I provide easy-to-use resources to save you time and energy while you're lesson planning. If you're new here, I just want to make sure that you know that links to everything that I mentioned will be down in the description box below. Okay, so there are some things you should know before you actually take your students outside. So we're going to run through those really quickly. First, you want to make sure you check with your admin to make sure it's okay, right? Sometimes something else is going on in the building that you're not aware of, or something else is scheduled or planned. You just want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. Second, when you actually go outside, make sure you let your secretaries know, because what if a student comes in late or something like that? They need to be able to find you. Just make sure, like, if they need you to grab a walkie-talkie or anything like that, you've done so. Third, also before you go outside, make sure you're good on all student allergy information. You would hate to bring a class outside, find out a student is allergic to bees, and then you don't have an EpiPen handy. That could just be a really worst case scenario, but just make sure that you are clear on your students' health needs. And last but not least, before you actually go outside, set expectations in the classroom with your students before you go. It's a lot easier to have their focus and their attention when you're in your usual classroom environment than it is taking them all outside, getting them all riled up, and then being like, okay, everybody, here's what we're doing. That's a really hard thing to come back together with. So do it before you actually go outside. Last thing, of course, if you're gonna have students do anything that involves paper and pencil, I highly recommend either giving them clipboards or just having them bring a textbook or a notebook that they can actually write on, so they have a hard surface that they can just put on their laps or something like that while they're working. Okay, let's get into the actual activities. The first activity I have for you is a maze game. I've talked about these before on my channel. They're super fun, they're super easy. All you do is you print and you go. I have 10 different ways you can play these games in my video here for you, but the simplest option is to just print, take them outside, and let students play, either alone or in pairs. Activity number 2 is to read outside, and this is as simple as it sounds. If you do free voluntary reading as a normal start of class routine, just take it outside. Have students grab their reading material and out the door you go. This is also a good kind of bridge into taking your class outside, because you don't have to do it for the whole class period. You could just have them grab their reading materials, take them outside, read for however long you usually read, and then back inside you go. You could do it for the whole class period, but if you're a little bit nervous about getting your students outside, this is a good option. Activity number 3 are gallery walks, and this is just one example. I've shared many examples on my channel over the years, but gallery walks are a great way to get your students up and moving, and all you would do is take it outside instead. So you could take these either to the wall of the building, you could just spread them out. Maybe you have a courtyard area with tables and things like that. You could put them on the tables. Students just walk around, read the information in Spanish, and do the activities that you have for them. Or if you're using one of mine, I have tons of activities included for each of my gallery walks. So that's an easy option. Activity number 4 are corre and círculos. And again, I've talked about this a ton on my channel, and it works really similarly to a gallery walk if you're taking it outside. What you would do is just tape or hang these to the outside of the building, or if you have a courtyard area or something like that, spread them out on the tables and benches. Wherever you have the space is just fine. Students are going to read the prompt on the bottom of the page, and then they're going to walk around until they find the answer. So this one says es la 1:05, so they're going to walk around until the big numbers match the prompt that they just read, until they get all the way back to the beginning of the circle. If you want to learn more about how to play this scavenger hunt style game, check out my video here for the full explanation. Activity number 4 is kind of not an activity, but it's a bunch of different activities you could do. Take out sidewalk chalk. Yes, plain old sidewalk chalk that you might have in your garage from when your kids were little, or maybe somebody gave it to you when you first started teaching. Either way, time to break it out. You can have them use chalk to illustrate a scene from a story that you're working on. Maybe students draw a slip of paper and they read the sentence and then illustrate that story. You could have them draw Spanish-speaking countries' flags. You can have them play 20 questions and use the chalk to mark off, okay, you're on question number 15, I'm gonna win. Whatever you want to do, that chalk is a really simple way to amp up the interest and engagement when you go outside. Another fun activity for you are following directions games, and that's kind of a silly way to say that, but that's exactly what it is. Think about childhood games where there's one caller and everybody else is doing something. That's what I mean when I say following direction games. So things like Simón Dice is perfect. Shipwreck, if you're familiar with that, that's a game I used to play with my gymnastics kids all the time, the kids that I used to coach, where you call out something and they do the activity. If you're going to play Shipwreck outside, make sure that you go through all of the instructions and all the actions inside your classroom before you take them out, because otherwise it'll be really tricky to make sure everybody knows all of the actions. Another good following direction game is something like Red Light, Green Light, or what time is it, Mr. Fox? Any of those kinds of games where students are going to listen to what you're saying and then do actions afterwards. Because you're outside, there's a lot of space to play, and you can play even a couple of different games and then take them back inside. The next activity I have for you is running dictation, and if you're not familiar with it, the basic setup is going to work very similarly to the gallery walks into Cuadrilla and Círculos. You have pieces of paper with sentences on them in Spanish, and you can either tape them to the outside of the building, or you can just spread them out around outside. One student is going to go run to the slip of paper, and they can actually run because they're outside, run to the slip of paper, read the sentence, memorize it, and then go back to their partner and repeat it to them in Spanish. Their partner is going to listen and then record the sentence on their writing sheet. Halfway through the sentences, they'll flip-flop roles. If you want to learn more about how to play running dictation, check out my video here. Okay, the next activity I have for you that's super fun to take outdoors is the El Toro review game. And this is actually perfect for outside because, well, my students always would get super loud when we play this game, and I'd be like, shh, classes, right? So if you take them outside, then it doesn't matter how loud they get because you're outside, as long as you're not like right next to somebody else's window, of course. But El Toro is a really fun review game for verbs and conjugation. So it's a trading card game, kind of like Spoons, where students are trying to collect a whole set of all of the different forms of a verb. Again, I have a different video where I explain this game in detail, but just trust me, this is one of my favorite to take outside. Activity number 9 is a walk talk, and this is something from Sarah Breckley over on her YouTube channel, so I'll make sure to link to her in the description below so you can make sure you check out her explanation. But it's basically what it sounds like. You're going to take your students for a walk, and you were going to talk about whatever it is that you're talking about, right? Comprehensible input activity, so you are narrating things you see. Think picture talk or movie talk, right? You're just giving them information. You're all chatting as a class, but you happen to be out on a stroll while you're doing so. And activity number 10 is the ball game. And this is super simple. It's something that I use as an icebreaker game. It's something that I use after winter break. I've talked about it a couple times before, but here's how it works. Bring a ball outside, and it could be a little ball like this. This is the one that I like to use in my own classroom because it's smaller and it's I don't know if you can see, it's squishy. So that way I don't have to worry about, well, you know, all the things that you might worry about when you take out a ball. You could also do something bigger like a beach ball because you're going to be outside, so you have more space. They could really spread out. But the way that the ball game works is you have your students ask a question to somebody else around in the circle. You toss the ball to that person. The person who catches the ball is going to answer the question, and then they're going to ask somebody else around the circle a question and toss the ball that way. Super simple. You can do it with so many different things. You could give them a bank of questions to choose from. You could have them formulate their own questions as they're tossing. Just a really simple interpersonal activity. So there you have it, 10 fun outdoor activities you can do with your Spanish students when the weather is cooperating. If you take your students outside, I'd love to hear what are your favorite activities to do with your students. Drop a comment down below and let me know if there's anything I should add to the list or consider trying in the future. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.